Welcome, everyone, to the emergency Thompson Co. MyHR Genius webinar. I had just done a webinar yesterday and mentioned that I was going to do an emergency one because of the coronavirus and everything that's been going on. So about 36 hours ago, at least from when I'm doing this, the Congress passed and the President signed the Families First Coronavirus Response Act. So there is a lot in it for employers, but pretty much just small employers. So if you're a really big employer and you've got over 500 employees, not a lot of application for you. But there are small employers out there, and that's a lot of people work at those small employers, and so the law that that was just passed, it's going to have some wide implications for those small employers. And one of the big ones is small employers are now going to have to know what the FMLA is and get to know it. So if you're an HR person or a small business owner and you don't have any idea what the FMLA is, you should talk to somebody, me or somebody else about that to get familiar with it. So, okay. Let's dive in here and talk about it. So this is me. I am not wearing a suit and tie right now. I am also one of two people actually in the office today. That's the world that we live in right now. If you had asked me a year ago or 2 months ago or even a month ago if this would be the case, I would have said you're crazy. So that's the world we live in. But back in my suit and tie wearing days, that's what I look like on that day. If you are not on the MyHR Genius program, and by the way, during this time period, the MyHR Genius program has just an amazingly incredible value. You're welcome to join. It's a month-to-month program, and it starts at $79 a month. Doesn't matter the size of your business. And you can call or email on coronavirus or any other HR topic or question with no legal fees. So you don't have to pay my typical hourly rate. You can call and get as much help as you need on coronavirus and dealing with all the ramifications. It's a pretty amazing deal right now because there is just a lot out there that all employers should be thinking about. With the program, you get unlimited calls and emails, but also you get webinars like, not just emergency webinars, but typical webinar invites, updates. We sent out a very substantive primer on the new Families First Act, and all it entails. We got that out within hours of the bill signing into law. So, if you're on the program, you get that sort of thing, and we also do weekly tips. And we are HR attorneys. That's what I am. I'm an HR attorney. That's all I do, represent businesses and nonprofits. Okay, so let's talk about it. There is a lot. So there's this overall act, Families First Act, but what is in it? So there's a number of sections in it, but I'm really only going to focus on the parts that are key for employers. So there's two parts, and we're going to start with the Family Medical Leave Act, the FMLA amendments. But let me just overview really quickly. There are two parts. One, there's an amendment to the FMLA, and then two, there's a new law that creates it's called the Emergency Paid Sick Leave Act. It creates a maximum of 2 weeks of sick leave for employees who are, can't work because of certain circumstances. So there are two separate laws. There's a bunch of other stuff in the Families First Act, but these are the two things that are critical to employers that all employers under 500 employees need to know. Okay, for the first time ever, the FMLA now applies to all employers. You could have one employee, you could have 2 employees, you could have 200 employees. You were always covered with 200 employees. Historically, since 1993, the FMLA has only applied to employers with 50 or more employees. That's always been the case. So larger employers and the employees get time off for a number of circumstances like bonding leave and medical serious medical condition, that sort of thing. Well, as of 36 hours ago, or I'm sorry, it is past 36 hours ago, this law takes effect on April 2nd. So this whole law takes effect April 2nd. So as of April 2nd, every employer pretty much in the country is at some level going to be covered by the FMLA. So small employers now need to know what the FMLA is, because they are going to have to, unless things change, they're going to have to provide limited benefits in limited circumstances to employees. And who's an employee? Everybody's an employee if they've been working for you for 30 days. So typically under the FMLA, historically, you have to work for the employer for a year, 1,250 hours of actual work. That's not the case anymore. That's been thrown out the window, as has a lot of stuff, typical life been thrown out the window. So has this with regard to the coronavirus, COVID-19, and this specific situation and these benefits. So for COVID-19 impacted employees, we'll talk about that in a second here, what the benefits are. It's going to apply to anybody that's been working for you for 30 days, okay? So you're going to get the benefits, small employers as well. But there's other stuff in there, increase in unemployment insurance and all that to help out the states. So that's going to help. A lot of states, many states have ramped up unemployment insurance benefits, and that's a whole nother conversation to have, and strategic thinking, whether to just lay people off and let them collect these enhanced unemployment benefits. Anyway, different conversation. I'm going to try to focus on this. Okay, so Emergency Medical Family Medical Expansion Act. Okay, so again, it amends the already existing FMLA. It creates a new eligibility for benefits. So obviously, more employees are going to be eligible because they don't have to do the whole 1 year of work. And but for example, let's just to be clear, we've got all the typical historic FMLA, like serious medical condition, bonding leave, taking care of a chronic condition, need to be off work for all of those things. Well, if somebody is pregnant and still needs bonding leave, they still need to meet that. That's only going to apply to employers with 50 or more employees, and it's only going to apply to eligible employees. So you still have to have like the 1 year of work, 1,250 hours. So that's, if you're still going to take bonding leave or a serious medical condition leave or chronic condition leave, it's still game as usual, right? Same thing, just like before. Employers with less than 50 employees are not suddenly now going to have to offer bonding leave to their pregnant employees. That's not the case. That's not what's going to happen here. This is just limited to employees who need time off because of COVID-19. So let's look at what that is. So what does it do? Again, it's under 500 employees. They've got to work for you for at least 30 days. So if you're going to be a covered employer here, if you're less than 500 employees, and if the employee's been working for you for at least 30 days. And what the employee is going to be entitled to is time off work, up to 12 weeks, just like the work weeks, just like the FMLA has always been. So up to 12 weeks off if they're unable to work, either at the office or at home, if they're unable to work because their kids, and it's got to be under 18-year-old, if their child's school or daycare has been closed because of COVID-19. So that's a very limited situation. It's not because your business is going under temporarily, hopefully. It's not even because the employee gets COVID-19. This part, if the employee gets COVID-19, that's normal FMLA. That's serious medical condition. It's going to be unpaid. It's only going to cover employers with 50 or more employees. The Senate watered down this bill seriously at the end, so that this only covers situations where basically you can't come into work, you can't work at all because of your kid, because your child, you got to be home to take care of them, and you just can't work. that's when this FMLA part is going to kick in. And again, they've got to be working for you for at least 30 days. Just very limited criteria for eligibility, but that's it. If they get COVID-19, if their wife gets COVID-19, or their husband gets a spouse, if their parent gets COVID-19, and you have 25 employees, that's not going to be covered by FMLA. If you have 50 employees, it is likely going to be covered by FMLA as a serious medical condition, assuming the typical serious medical condition criteria is met. That's how this works. Very limited circumstances. It's not nearly as broad as the Democrats had wanted it initially to be in the House bill, and I think the media is kind of reporting like they report it as like this really broad sweeping. It's not. It's limited circumstances. Now, are there going to be a lot of employees that can't work because they have to take care of their kids? Absolutely. They are closing schools everywhere in the country, and there are going to be a lot of employees who just cannot work, and they're closing schools because of COVID-19, right? There are going to be a lot of employees who cannot work because of that. And so, if that's the case, they're going to be on covered by the FMLA here. So what does that look like? Okay, so let's just say you've got an employee like that. The school's closed or the daycare's closed because of COVID-19. They can't work. Therefore, they're going to go on this FMLA. It's going to be job protected. You're supposed to restore the person to their job. However, there is some, potentially some guidelines that might come out saying that small employers don't have to, follow that whole restoration of job type thing. We'll see. But right now, you're supposed to hold the job open and keep, group medical benefits, all the typical FMLA stuff that we see. How does it work? Okay. The first 2 weeks, like typical FMLA, is unpaid, okay? So the first 2 weeks, totally unpaid. The next 10 weeks, so it's up to 12 weeks, the next 10 weeks, if they continue, the school continues to be closed and the parents can't work because of it, the next 10 weeks is going to be paid at 2/3 of the employee's normal wages. So 2/3 of the normal wages, up to $200 a day. So there it is. At $200 a day, it's a little bit better than most states have for unemployment insurance. So it's not going to be that great, actually. And really the difference between this and unemployment's not that great, although some states have, incredibly low maximum weekly output, like their maximum weekly unemployment benefits are really, really low. And so this, certainly this is going to be better for the employee to get 2/3 pay. If you have the employee go off, so again, the first 10 days, unpaid, just like typical FMLA, and then now we've got 2/3 pay for the next 10 weeks, up to 10 weeks. This law is in effect until the end of December. I don't want to guarantee anything. I'm done guaranteeing. I'm absolutely not guaranteeing anything anymore. But I'm pretty sure that if COVID-19 is still a thing, that it's going to be extended. This law will be extended past, the end of 2020. But for now, this law is only in effect for 2020. It's an emergency, right? But they're going to get 2/3. They're going to get 2/3 of their pay. So here's the reinstatement. Got to be reinstated to your job, just like typical FMLA. But there is going to be some potential to not be reinstated if like the position no longer exists, which is typical of FMLA anyway. If you eliminate the job, there's nothing to restore the person to. You don't have to bring them back. But anyway, you're supposed to do it. We'll see if there's any guidelines that come out on it. I don't think most employers are worried too much about restoration at this point. I think most employers are trying to just survive the next few months and do what they can with payroll. This, here's the effective date. This is likely to help employers, and there's not a slide on it, but I'm just going to say, because this money that you're paying out, up to 2/3, up to $200, 2/3 of the wages for these 10 weeks, this money is going to be credited back to you on your quarterly taxes. It might not be much solace if you can't make payroll in the meantime because of the circumstances, but if you can keep going and pay the 2/3 to your employees and they qualify for the FMLA benefit where they get the 2/3 for the 10 weeks, you're going to get it back from the federal government. You're also going to get back continued group medical coverage. So if the employee for these 12 weeks, if you're as you do under the FMLA, you extend the group medical coverage. You don't COBRA them when they're on FMLA until the end of FMLA. Then you can COBRA them. But for the extension of the group medical, you're going to get reimbursed as well for the employer paid portion. That's how I understand it anyway. Caveat, it's not entirely clear, but my understanding in reading the law is we have, by the way, have no guidance from the federal government really on this new law. So I'm telling you how I read it and understand it, and I've been immersed in it the last 36 hours. But we could get some guidance that changes some of the stuff that I'm saying here. So definitely pay attention, keep calling with questions. Join the My HR Genius program, get our updates. This is a moving target. This stuff is changing every day. But right now, my understanding, you're going to get back on quarterly taxes. You can claim as a credit the money that you pay up to 2/3, up to $200 a day for employees who qualify here, and then you will, and then also reimbursement for maintaining that employee's group medical coverage, right? So if the employee is paying an employee portion, I don't think you get that back, but you do get the employer portion. Again, we might get clarification. It might be the whole thing for all, but that's not how I read the law. Okay, that's the FMLA. So now you're asking, well, I thought the person was going to get paid the entire time. Maybe. So then we have the second law, which is, instead of amending a law, this is a brand new law. So this one's a little bit different, a little less complicated to figure out, because when you're merging and amending a law, it just gets a little wonky for structural analysis and understanding. So there's my lawyer speak for you right now. So now we're going to look at the Emergency Paid Sick Leave Act, right? This is your 2 weeks of pay, up to 2 weeks of pay. So it's going to, again, only employers with less than 500 employees, covers public agencies and that sort of thing. Unlike the FMLA, where the FMLA is for employees that have worked for you for 30 days, this covers all employees. If they're on your payroll as of April 2nd, they're going to be covered, okay? So there it is. April 2nd, they're going to be covered if they're an employed, quote, employee of yours, and not an independent contractors, has to be an actual employee. There are 6 ways this gets triggered, okay? These are the 6. We in HR and, HR attorneys as well, or I'm in the boat with you, we're getting really familiar with this really fast. So paid sick leave under this law, it's not just for anybody that can't work. It's not just for anybody that's feeling some symptoms. Here it is. And we look at these in groups. Look at the first 3 together and look at the last 3 together. So the first 3, the employee subject to a government quarantine or isolation order. California just issued theirs last night. All those employees are going to be covered. If it were April 2nd, all those employees that can't go into work would be covered by this law. They'd get paid sick leave up to 2 weeks. I think Pennsylvania did the same. So Minnesota is going to be coming. All states will be coming. All states will at some point be quarantined. There'll likely be an isolation order, at least for some period of time. Okay, if you can't work because of that, you're going to be covered by this law. The employee personally has been advised by a healthcare provider to self-quarantine, okay? We're getting a bunch of self-quarantine. It's got to be by a healthcare provider. They've got to be told to self-quarantine. So I don't know what that means. I don't know if that, I think we can ask for some documentation on that. If there is some, I think a lot of employers are just not caring as much about documentation these days. This is moving so quickly. We're just trying to figure out what to do with, whether to lay off people or not. I think a lot of stuff, but could you ask for some documentation? Yes. For number 2. The employee is experiencing symptoms of COVID-19 and is seeking a medical diagnosis. They've gone online, they're going to go take the test, okay? That's number 3. They don't have the diagnosis yet, but they're seeking it. They've got to take some time off. You're kicking them out of the office because you don't want them anywhere around. They've got some symptoms. They can't work. Boom, they're on paid sick leave. That's the first batch. Those first 3 are together. And the reason the first 3 are together is because if you've got a full-time employee, they're going to get full pay up to $511 a day. They're going to get full pay wages for up to 80 hours or 2 weeks, okay? Prorated for part-time employees. If the reason they can't work is because of one of these top 3, they're going to get $511 a day, up to $511 a day for 2 weeks. That's going to be paid. Okay, then the next 3, the second batch is going to be a little bit different. So the second batch, the employee's caring for an individual subject to the government quarantine. So I got to take care of somebody who's subject. You might have like a child or an immediate family member that you're helping to take care of, and you're taking care of their needs because they're quarantined, or you have to go help somebody, whatever, in your immediate family member. Or they've been advised to self-quarantine, okay? If you're helping somebody in that situation, that's going to be covered by this. If the employee's caring for a son or daughter, so kind of like the FMLA, similar to the FMLA, right? School or daycare is closed, and you've got to stay home. Boom, you're going to get paid sick leave for up to 80 hours if you're a full-time employee. The final one, the employee personally is experiencing any substantially similar condition specified by the Secretary. I'm sure you can find all that information on the website. Okay, the reason we group these, so with the first group is, again, the first 3 groups, and I've already covered a lot of this, so I'm going to get to this. So the first 3 groups there, that's $511 a day, right, for 2 weeks, for 80 hours. The second 3, where we're taking care of people like kids or family members that are being self-quarantined, that's not going to pay at full rate. That's going to pay 2/3. So 2/3. If the reason they can't work is because of those last 3, it's going to be 2/3 up to $200, just like the FMLA. So if you're at number 5, where you're taking care of kids because the kid's school or daycare has been closed, you're going to get there. You slot that right in to your FMLA. The FMLA starts. The first 2 weeks are unpaid under the FMLA. Well, they're not unpaid under this part. Under this part, the first 2 weeks are going to be paid at the same 2/3 up to $200, up to $200 a day. Okay, and so it's going to it's like a missing puzzle piece. It's going to fit right into the FMLA. So for an employee who is going to miss like 12 weeks because one of their children can't go to school or daycare and they can't work as a result, they're effectively going to get 12 weeks of pay, 2/3 of their pay, up to $200 a day. Okay. The sick leave is just like the FMLA. You're going to be able to claim it as a tax credit. So it's going to be on quarterly taxes. You're going to claim it as a tax credit. You're going to eventually give it back. Again, little solace if you can't even make payroll, and you're going to have to lay people off. But if you're going to do it before April 2nd, because if you can't make payroll, because you're obviously not going to get your reimbursement immediately. It's going to take a little bit of time. If you already have a PTO or sick leave policy, most of you listening to this probably do. You cannot, under this law, you cannot force the employee to use your personal company PTO or sick leave before this brand new FMLA and emergency paid sick leave. Okay, so you can't force them. And historically, we can force people for the most part, although there are some states that step in and say, no, you can't force people to use like sick. Anyway, you can't do that here. So they have to be able to use their own, the new entitlement. You can't force them to exhaust their PTO before like they go on the FMLA and that sort of thing. Also important for those of you, if your business is even operating in hospitality, but especially in hospitality, you can't force employees to find a replacement. Okay, so employees, if they're sick, if they've got to take care of the kids, if they hit any one of these six reasons under the paid emergency paid sick leave act, if they hit any of those six, you can't force them to find a replacement. That's devastating. That's something that the Democrats and the really employee-friendly politicians, like in Chicago and nationally as well, that Chicago passed it recently. That's very, very common to give a pass to employees who are in the hospitality sector that are missing shifts. And it's like, well, yeah, but you have to find a replacement. Anyway, you can't do that. So can't force somebody to do this. There is going to be a government notice that comes out from the Department of Labor in the next few days, next week. So depending on when you're listening to this, it's supposed to be out by the 25th of March. All employers need to post that. If you get the really nice laminated posters and you've got a subscription to like GovDocs or some other subscription where you're getting those laminated posters, you might get a new poster. You could also get the model notice from the Department of Labor. If you're on the My HR Genius program and you're on our mailing list through that program, we will immediately, once it comes out, be distributing it out to everybody to put out, to at least post. But we've got to tell employees of their rights. I think employers also need to think you should also have, and we've created these. You're welcome to call and ask for them, but we have created sick leave policies that integrate this new law, and also FMLA policies. I think employers now need to have FMLA policies if you've never had an FMLA policy before. And so I think you need to at least have a policy framework incorporating sick leave and FMLA as well. If you're not, this is something that should keep HR people busy. Definitely call Thompson Co. if you need help with any of that. Oh, I already covered this, so forecasted this a little bit, but here's just more information on the tax credits. But again, repetitive over what I had already said. We will see if any changes and guidance come out with this, but I think employers need to make a plan. Pandemic policies, I think, are either done and over. You can still implement them. This law does not require that you keep your business open. It just gives paid time off to employees under limited circumstances, and that's how I'm looking at it. Again, this is all fast-moving. You need to be able to respond quickly and analyze this stuff. Definitely call me directly. Reach out to me. If you're not on the My HR Genius program, get on the program. Then you don't have to worry about legal fees to call and email. Or reach out to any other Thompson Co. attorney. We have a COVID response team that is very immersed in these issues and ready to help you through all of this. So look forward to hearing from people. Let me know what questions you might have. You can reach out to me at 651-389-5007 or at kmosher@thompsonco.com. If you're interested in the My HR Genius program, it's myhrgenius.co. And then at thompsonco.com, you can get more information on our COVID-19 response team and all the ordinances that are going or where we have offices, as well as other information that's really timely and helpful for HR people. I wish everybody well during this difficult time, and if we can help in any way, let me know.